Good evening, whiskey enthusiasts. It's Brett, and I'm here with another whiskey review. This is one that I received a sample of because I can't get my hands on it around here. This is my very first Garrison Brothers bourbon to taste. I'm very excited to try this. I have not a lot of ideas about what to expect. This is the Balmorhea edition. I don't know what that word means. You're going to have to look it up yourselves. I assume it has something to do with something in Texas. It was released in late 2017, and it comes in at 115 proof. Now, this is matured in two different casks. So, what's called a double maturation. First, it is put into 15-gallon new white oak American casks, and it's aged for 2 years. Then it was transferred out of those casks and into 27-gallon new casks. All right? So it was in two different new casks. So combining two different new casks with the Texas heat, and the fact that they are so small to give it more contact wood to whiskey, I would expect this to be rich. I would expect it to be woody, but I really don't know what to expect yet. So it's 4 years old, double maturation in quite small casks. A typical bourbon barrel is 53 gallons. So this was matured in 15 gallons and then in 27 gallons, so you can see how much difference that is and how the ratio of whiskey to wood would be quite different. All right? That's all I know about this. Let's see what it tastes like. The nose is heavy with caramel. You can tell that it is higher proof by the richness of the nose. But there's absolutely no burn on the nose whatsoever. I can put my nose right down onto it and I get nothing back that's going to make me cringe or anything. Just lots of caramel mixed with some nutmeg. There's wood underneath. The wood itself is even a sweet note in the nose. There's brown sugar, a little bit of vanilla, not much fruit, maybe just a hint of fruitiness, but I think mostly that's due to the natural sugar. I'm getting more so than an actual fruit note itself. That's about it. The sweet wood note is very nice. I enjoy the nose on this a lot, more than I actually expected. The flavors are rich. And that first sip had a little heat on it. That's typical with a higher proof whiskey on the first sip. Now that my mouth is accustomed to that, we'll get some notes out of the second sip here. Oaky caramel is the first thing you notice. Vanilla frosting. The sweetness mixes with the vanilla so well. There's still just a little heat. It would probably be even better if it had a little more age on it. But in Texas, their climate probably makes it hard to age for a very long time due to the angel share you'd be losing. I love the fact that this isn't watered down because the tastes are all very rich. The caramel is decadent. You get that sweet wood note that follows all the way through to the finish. There's a little more of a fruity note to the palate than there is the nose. Something I didn't get before. But it's not exactly cherry. It's sort of like that, but it's not exactly cherry. It's almost like a cherry grape combination. I know that sounds weird. Cherry and white grape. This is pretty good, guys. I really am digging this. I like it more than I thought I would. I was skeptical about Garrison Brothers because I've heard some very negative reports about it, although I've also heard some positives. But when there's that much mixed review, you don't know what to expect. Now, this is probably one of their more elite offerings, so maybe I'm getting the best of their stuff. That caramel follows all the way through the finish. The caramel still dominates in the finish. The wood rises up though, and you get a lot more oak on the finish. You get enough oak that now you're hitting a little bit of clove as you go into the finish, and as it fades out, that's the note that you get that resides with you the longest. So the wood and the clove. All in all, this is a really, really good bourbon. I dig it. It's slightly different from a Kentucky bourbon. However, in its own right, it stands right up there, and I think it's fantastic. It is rather expensive. It is sold in 375 milliliter bottles, and those retail in the 60s. Somewhere between $65 and $69 is what I've seen it advertised at for a 375 size bottle. So it's pricey. If you're into unique bottlings, if you're into different tastes, and you want to drink a bourbon that will give you something new, maybe it's worth it for you. You're probably not going to get a chance to try it in a bar outside of Texas or southern Oklahoma. But if you get a chance to try it at a bar, I would say definitely buy a drink of it. Whether you want a bottle of it for that price or not is debatable. It just depends on how much you want to experiment with your bourbon. As far as rating, on our 100-point scale, where 50 is an average bourbon, or an average whiskey, in this case a bourbon, I would probably put this at I'd probably put this at an 80. This is a very good bourbon, and I would rank it among the top tier bourbons that I keep around. And it's not heavy on spice, but it is rich and decadent on everything else. So there's my review, and you'll just have to make your own decision whether it's worth it to try at that price, because it's, let's be honest, it's pretty pricey. You know, the equivalent of a $7.50 of this, you're talking about $140. That's a lot of money for a bourbon, but it's a very good one. So if you got the cash to spend, it might be worth it to you. Regardless of whether you want this one or not, go out and find you some whiskey you'll love.